Good evening and welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. I am your host, Donna M. Banks, and our special guest tonight is entrepreneur, public speaker, activist, and author of the second coming, Andre Hill Sr. Welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. We welcome you this evening.
Thank you very much, Donna, for having me.
This evening, we will talk about his career and unusual experiences and spiritual encounters that led him to writing The Second Coming. And Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation is sponsored by Iris Diamonds LLC, the Fresh Book Festival, which will be held in the beautiful city of Daytona Beach, 23, 24, 25 February and 2023. If you have any questions for Andre, please leave them in the chat box. And of course, this conversation is being recorded. Andre, am I calling you Andre? Is that your name, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I was thinking I'm calling the wrong name. Andre, please take a moment and give our audience some brief background about who you
are. Okay, so I am a native of Tampa, Florida. And like I mentioned to you earlier, I'm a third-generation entrepreneur with 64 years of business experience. So I started in business at a very young age, working with my parents' restaurants, sweeping floors and wiping windows with Windex. So I count those years into my long entrepreneurship spirit. So I attended college at FAMU with business marketing, worked in a law firm in Washington, D.C., and taxation and writing business plans. So I've been in business development most of writing my own paychecks for many. I've signed many paychecks. So I've been involved in I call it the European capitalistic system for a very long time.
So you can, that's what it is. I mean, call it what it is, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, Andre, and you've done many things, but we want to, because this is Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation about authors, we're going to talk about your book first, the process, and then we're going to get into the meat of it. And I wanted to ask you about your publishing experience, the first one, which was many, many years ago, and how that differs from this second edition that you're about to do.
So one of the things that I knew about the publishing industry, that the big publishing houses are lazy. Basically, they want books that famous people that have murdered somebody, that sort of thing. So trying to sell your book to a publishing house, and especially one that is going to empower melanated people to understand who they are, where they are, and where they come from on the level of on a metaphysical level. I knew that it was going to be difficult. I sent a few letters off, but I got no reply, and I knew that basically I was going to have to self-publish, and so I got involved. Being an entrepreneur, I said, publishing, so you need to put these components
How hard
together.
could that be?
But I soon found out, why in the publishing industry it's a cult, to say the least. And and I knew that I basically wasn't going to sell my soul to get in that cult. And I learned early on that a religious group that got the first manuscript of my book basically offered me $200,000 to try to convert me into this religious organization, to really control me, not to put that book out, because I exposed the foundation of their religious institution. So it's been an arduous task, but one worth going through.
And the second edition, how is it easier?
So the second edition is two things. The first one, the first edition was basically an 8.5 by 11, because in the rear there's 144 charts that explain the variations in human personalities, attitudes, and compatibilities. And so I did it like a workbook. But as time went on in the reprint, we added a few things on, made a few adjustments, because during the printing process, I used a printer local here in the Tampa area. And the typesetter, which was all digital, kept changing things in the book. And so I had to edit it, proof it over and over and over again. So we eventually approved it. And then when it went to print, some of those mistakes were still there. So we changed the narrative and turned the process of, okay, we'll typeset it and move on with it ourselves. I even had a typesetter in Washington, D.C. area that a Caucasian female that was trying to set it. And we thought that by going to a Mac system, it would be difficult for them to interfere. And DC, the hometown of those three-letter agencies, they got into her Mac system and disrupted the Mac. And she was befuddled to say, how do they dare get into my Mac system and try to degrade this book? So I went through some serious experience getting this sort of knowledge out to all humans to reclaim and reestablish balance here on this planet.
Let's talk about the 144 personalities really quickly. I don't want to take all the time on it, but when you mentioned that to me several months ago, something I did remember, of course. Tell me about, unpack that for me.
Okay, so the number 144 is a mathematical equation, 12 by 12. And our ancestors, when they developed this planet, hundreds, thousands of years ago, when they first started the creation process, I don't think they used the system. As a matter of fact, I think the senior scientists allowed the junior scientists to set up here on Earth. And when they did, they didn't take in consideration of the electromagnetic fields of the solar system. And so therefore, the original Adam and the original Eve, her name was really Lilith. And so when they put Lilith into the mix, they didn't take consideration of her being one of those type of personalities that I'm not the housewife type, So she rebelled and left the so-called garden and went on out into the rest of the earth. And so they had to pick a woman that was more not, I don't want to say submissive, but cooperative. And so the 144 different personalities are based on the 12 monthly signs and the 12 annual signs. And when you multiply 12 times 12 is 144. And I wrote about all 144 different personalities. So in that, it gives a balance sheet of the soul. It gives you a list of souls that are equally yoked with you and ones that are not so equally yoked with you. And it helps recreate. It also recommends the type of careers that you should focus on. So it's very helpful for children, for parents that's trying to find a balance for their children. And it's very accurate. Under Barack Obama's birthday, when I wrote the book, under his personality, it had a film director, chancellor, and president. And I wrote, of course, we wrote the book in 1999. So those formulas, they're out there. And what happened, a lot of the Europeans took those formulas back to Europe and suppressed them and would not allow melanated children, the descendants of the high frequency melanated extraterrestrials, they will not allow the children to have access to that information because it will give them balance on Earth. And because the Europeans are a recessive gene, they're not in balance with nature, that would disrupt the whole floor of white supremacy. So that's why that information was kept away.
Your book was a coffee table book, let's just say early on. And now you've compressed it to like 5 by 8. Is that information of 144 still there?
Oh, absolutely. That's
okay.
one of the that's one of the main components of the book is balance, returning back to nature. This artificial system, it's not working for us. It's not working for the planet. We're having contaminated water, the grounds, the weather is going crazy now. And when you find out, when you get to the root of understanding how our Caucasian brothers and sisters were created, you'll understand that in order for them to stay in power, they have to keep us out of our natural order.
And divide.
And divide. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, I didn't see the first cover. The cover that I saw today, was that the first cover? Or was that the second cover for the second edition?
No, that's the second cover.
Okay.
Yeah, the first cover had a blue background with a planet, and I might be able to I might be able to pull it up during the show. I'll try to cue somebody.
It's not necessary. I just want to talk about the difference in the editing process then, and the editing process now, and the cover process then, and the cover process now.
So the cover process was very difficult because I had a hard time getting anybody to work with me on providing a cover. And this is a true story. So I had a friend that was from Miami, and I flew down to Miami and I said, look, I'm having a hard time getting this book in the box, even with the cover. And she told me, she said, look, she's from the Bahamas. She said, go over to Nassau, and I'll give you some numbers and just call people, tell them you know me, that, whatever. And so I did. I flew over to Nassau. I met this marketing group, told them what my problem was. And they said, oh, sure. They jumped right in on it. Unbeknownst to them, the Queen's Court was going to interrupt them later on down the road. But they developed, and so I went into the office and we started talking about the different designs. And the guy came up with some dark designs, but it had a dark background. I didn't like it. So, true story. I said, look, hey man, we're in the islands, eh? So go and smoke a joint. Go smoke a joint and meditate on this.
And come back.
And come back, and I kid you not, he came back with an excellent cover. It had a picture of the earth partially torched with chains and a melanated man behind breaking the chains, and it explained, the theme of the book very well. But the new process, I brought in a young lady to help assist with it, with the book, and I gave her free rein. I said, listen, your generation is the generation that's going to benefit from this book. So why don't you change the cover to something that's palatable to your generation? And so that's where the new cover that I sent you, that in reprint in the 9x7 format that we will be using. And of course, the thing was, she said, well, look, a lot of women will buy this book. And they're gonna want to be able to put it in their purse. So a 9x7 works fine, so that's how we got to the point where we are now.
9x7 works better because you can take it anywhere, right? You can take it on a plane, put it in your purse. It's travel, being able to, I like to call it reading while you wait, because we wait so many times. You wait at the doctor's office, you wait at the airport, you know what I mean? So you want something you can just pull out and read. And editing process. Now, I know years ago that had to be arduous. So tell me about this second edition and how's that?
So the second edition, my son, in the book, I talk about the story when I went into the light and when he was 4 years old. So my son has been introduced to metaphysics since he was a baby. And he has evolved to a level where he teaches astrology online. And so I said, look, so in this second edition, I want you to write the forward to the rear section dealing with the 144 personalities, give it a breakdown. And so he went in and he made some changes and adjustments to the book. So it's really Andre Hill Sr. and Andre Hill Jr., at this point in the second edition. So he added some serious consciousness into the 144 or the astrology piece, which gives more detail than what I did in the first edition.
Why do you believe that, and this is not one of the questions that I sent to you, why do you believe that melanated people don't realize that how important astrology is? Why do you think, like for instance, Tiger Woods always wore red on Sunday? Right, that was part of his astrological chart, the color, right? And so why is it that we don't understand that even through the Bible, the first thing that, the universe was made up of is the heavens and the earth. And why that's not important, right? I don't understand. Why do we have such a hard time?
Well, you have to think about, you got to go back to the Catholic Church, and when the popes, commissioned, they claimed that God, and we know now which God it was, told them, you can go out and recon the entire planet. And, basically start preparing to convert everybody to their Christianity. And it was laced with images from Michelangelo of Caucasians, and it was, and the number of books were limited to 66 books, very limited. So, there are 100, maybe 200 or 300 books out there that should have been included. But
right.
when you're developing a recessive gene to become superior to the natural people that were already on the planet, they knew that their agenda was to replace melanated people on this planet, because we are natural, we are of nature, and it's hard for you to suppress us in cages. And that's why I had to come up with the Willie Lynch letter, and so, for hundreds of years, all of that knowledge was removed, even in Africa, with the Sphinx and the nose and the lips being broken off. That was the agenda from the beginning, was to create a new species that will be submissive to a misguided false god. And so our people were just brainwashed, programmed, beaten into submission to accept this Christianity. And so that's why it's very difficult for them to have faith and confidence in themselves.
Tell me about where you write. I know we talk to a lot of authors and they have different places that they go. I can't go into a cafe and write. I don't know how people do it, but a lot of people do. Tell us about where it is that you find your comfort zone. And do you write in chapters, screens, or do you actually use an outline?
So after my 1990 experience of going into the light, I at first, I kept getting these downloads, and they would happen 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock a.m. in the morning. And, at first I'm going like, that's nice to know that. And it was just like reasoning being downloaded, 1 billion bits of information every night. Then finally it dawned on me, they're transmitting the universe, the alpha and the omega.
Yes.
And at first I started writing. I said, well, I put a notepad when I'm a single man at that point. So when I was home alone, I put a notepad in my bed, and I got up and I tried to write notes of all of this knowledge that was being downloaded into my consciousness. And then when they say, oh, he gets it. So because it was the knowledge was so enlightening and refreshing and powerful. I said, I'm gonna forget this. So let me write it out. Then it got to the point where the writing was, I'm like, I might as well transfer this into type. So I bought a laptop and replaced the pad in my bed with the laptop in my bed, and I knew without fail, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, the downloads would start. So I get up, flip my laptop open, and start typing away. And it was like, oh my God, it was overwhelming, but delightful to just understand that I can tap into the great computer of the Most High and get access to all knowledge, all understanding of balance and the natural laws of the universe. And that's how I type. So I just type. I didn't go and then I just typed as quickly. I wasn't the best typer in the typing class. I got
right.
45 words a minute, I think was my max, I got in the typing class because all the beautiful women were in the typing class. So, but I didn't, unbeknownst to me, I needed that typing, So that's how I rolled.
So in 1999, you talk about outside forces, which really shut down your operation because of the knowledge that's in the second coming. Unpack that story.
So So in 1990, I moved from Washington, D.C. to Nashville, Tennessee. And I knew how to write a business plan to open a business. And I can write a business plan for the moon. And so I started a child care center. And in phase 1 and phase 2, I was building out a 63,000 square foot food processing plant, which was a tie over from my family's food processing business in Tampa. And so the date, my child care center, all of a sudden, we were starting to have issues with the licensing people, after I wrote the book and started circulating. And eventually it took them about 6 or 7 years I had to close it. I mean, they infiltrated my staff. They had bus drivers crashing buses, co-riders not showing up when the state of Tennessee was across the street waiting on the co-rider not to show up so they could hit me with a coat. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, all the things and all the business knowledge and the legal team that I had from Washington, D.C., I would call them to get advice. I had to go into the bankruptcy court, and it got so to the point where the state of Tennessee told the federal bankruptcy court that we're not gonna adhere to your rules and regulations. And so the federal court said, "Oh, really?" And they hit them with a charge, and they still, even after they returned some of the money that they took from my organization. Even after we got out of bankruptcy court, they still came after me, So it's a number of things, trials and tribulations that happened, even up to the point where, they refused to relicense my daycare. Even after child care centers had murdered children, were still open. And the one offense that we had was a co-rider on the bus who they paid not to show up to work. Was the main offense for us to shut down a $436,000 a year operation and displace 70 to 100 and some children. So it was the test of humility. One thing about being I call myself an entity, a humble entity. To prove yourself, you must be tested and overcome. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you believe that the entrepreneurial system here in the United States is really just not put together for melanated people. It's just not something that we can operate under.
No,
and win.
No, you can't win in the system. Even if you put together a good system, first what they will do, just like they did with BET, or just like they did with the guy with the cookie company out of LA, I forget the name of that guy. They come and they're going to offer you their fiat. This, their fake money. They'll pay you millions, or in the case with BET, $2 billion to keep you from educating melanated people. Yeah. And so it doesn't matter. Like I said, I should be in this European system a billionaire 100 times over with the knowledge that I have. But it doesn't matter, and they will come buy you out. And then as soon as they take over, they'll kill the product, water it down until it becomes ineffective, and so it's just, it wasn't designed. If you go back and look at the Willie Lynch letter, they talk about us as being a component of their economy. It never intended for us to succeed. They can't allow melanated people to have a level playing field. If so, they will be genetically eliminated. So hey, that's the reality. What I encourage, our people under these circumstances, all the other groups that they're bringing to America, the Ukrainians, the Afghanistan, all these other groups, the Hispanics, they're bringing them in here to support their system, just like in the Matrix. They need batteries to support their illusion of our planet and our resources, and they have designed basically for them to live off like parasites, live off our planet through a divide and conquer routine.
Yeah, kind of. You think twice about that whole thing when the Ukrainians are brought here and given money and places to live, and the Haitians are sent back on the boat or put in domestic holdings. And so, yeah, I mean, it really gives you, because they're running from the same type of torture or whatever, and wanting to supposedly a better place to live, but they can't do it here. So yeah, it's
But they have a dual citizenship. They can always go back home, right?
right.
But we, the Black Native Americans, we only have one citizenship, and that's the United States of corporate America. So that's why we are working in the direction of our own indigenous citizenship. In addition to, you can hold on to your corporate American citizenship until you transfer your assets, but that is the objective.
Okay, so let's talk about that. That was one of the questions. Let's talk about dual citizenship and why it's important for us to have.
So like I said, in this European design, we have no nationality. We've been called we went from being Negroes to colored people to African Americans, and all of it is an illusion. It was a deception. Most of us are Black Native Americans, and there were two groups. There was the Black Native Americans and the Mongoloid Native Americans. The Mongoloid Native Americans, they travel all over differently. They followed the food, but the Black Native Americans, we had our own buildings. We grew food. As a matter of fact, we fed them when they came over here. So what they do when they went to sleep, they always had this agenda going. So when our ancestors who had the history of this land and the systems of balance, when they went to sleep, they set their houses on fire and murdered them. And then threw all of the children into the same camps with the Africans that they brought over. Now, Africa is our ancestry. Now, don't get it twisted.
Right.
We are here. And so all we're doing is reestablishing that nationality. And we're going to look at the same treaties that were established for the Mongoloid Native Americans, who was set up by the Catholic Church. So having the Catholic Church to negotiate on your behalf is like having Don King working for you.
Well, I mean,
they might as well have gotten Satan to operate for them. So
right.
That was a bad deal. As you can see now, they give them cash money, but there's no real industry other than the gambling. And I would love to see that contract of what's going on here in Florida, because there's some strange bedfellows going on here with that contract. Yeah, I don't trust it.
Yeah, you should not trust it. You should not trust it. So let's talk about your extraterrestrial experiences. Now, we talked about a young lady that I know that had been abducted and was completely cured of cancer. And she, to this day, is cancer-free after her abduction and her operation, and how she was sent back to this planet. She did not talk about the color of her abductionist or her cures. I don't like to call it abductionist because she was cured. She has a cure that they never will have here, right? And you have an interesting story to tell about an abduction. Tell us about that.
So two things. My experience, my personal experience, I don't consider it an abduction. I call it an awakening. And that happened in February of 1990 when I moved from Washington, D.C. to Nashville, Tennessee. And I was a little distraught because at that point in time, after living in D.C. for 10 years, I developed a D.C. accent, more so than my Southern accent that you're hearing now. And people were reluctant, even the Black folks were reluctant to dealing with me. And so I remember the Guardians sending me a message, at that point in time where it was time for me to leave DC. So I told my son's mother, I said, look, instead of taking him to work, just let him stay home with me. I'm staying in to meditate because I'm having a hard time in DC. And I went into that, I just sat in my bed with my back up against the wall, and in broad daylight, a bright light exploded out the right side of my eye. And the light just got brighter and brighter until I was totally encased in this warm, beautiful, euphoric light. It was so peaceful. It was like having an entire building lifted off my shoulders. There was no word, no spoken word, no graven images. It was just pure white light. So I was being drawn into that light. And as I realized that the longer I stayed, there was a point of no return. So I stopped, I put my brakes on, and I'm thinking I'm still in my human body. So I shifted to the right, and I'm looking down and I see nobody. I held my hand up, there's no hand. And I just thought, I guess I sent a telepathic thought. I said, I cannot leave my 4-year-old son without a father. And in that instant, boom, I was back in my body, sitting in this bed in a little town, Mount Juliet, outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm startled, but I'm overwhelmed with this great experience. I mean, I've never heard of such. And so that was my first encounter. And of course, after that, I went start going through the process. I got up the next morning. I said, oh, I know who I am. I know what I am. And I started writing a business plan. I went to research the newspapers and found out what kind of problems were they going to be having in Tennessee. So I said, okay, I'm going to write a business plan for a children's program, because they predicted because of the drug industry, there are going to be a lot of children in foster care. That was one experience. In 1997, a mile-wide UFO floated over the city of Phoenix, where thousands of people, a mile wide, thousands of people saw it. And it was so serious that they told the governor, look, still try to make fun of this. And the citizens were angry at it, because they said, you're going to actually play us for a fool. And so I went out to Phoenix, Arizona. I flew out there to interview some people, because I knew I was composing this book. And I met a Caucasian woman at a mall where they were having a UFO conference. And I said, look, tell me something about, your encounter. And she smiled and she said to me, when she asked me what did I said, I'm writing a book about such and such. She said, you are an experiencer. I said, what? Yeah. And she said, yeah, you're here to take notes and write, on the conditions. I said, okay, that sounds about right. Yes. And she started to tell me about her experience, that she had been abducted all her life, and that some of the eggs that were impregnated, some of the children were on the craft that would come up and visit her while she was on the craft being tested and experimented on. And it was excruciating and agonizing. And she said, but yet there were a race of ETs that came on the ship. She said they had dark skin like elephant skin, and they had beautiful eyes like starbursts. They were the spiritual ones. I said, what? She said, yeah, they comforted her while these other extraterrestrials were doing all of these horrendous experiments, extracting and all of that sort of thing. But she said they came. I started putting two and two together, and I said, in other words, the black melanated aliens technology was more advanced than the Caucasian technology, because they went through their shields, went on their ship, and comfort this woman while she was stressed out. And that just, my mind went, wow, I get it now. So,
did she ever talk about her re-entry?
No, she didn't. She just told me about the experiences, and then later on she found out that her daughters, her Earthling daughters, had been abducted as well. And so it's a recurring thing. Pretty much like, I believe, the Barney Hill situation. He got caught up being abducted under those adverse situations because he married this Caucasian woman. So sometimes you wonder, who you should marry and that sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, that empowered me. That I started putting together, and then I looked at the Bible where it says the Christ had feet of bronze and hair of wool. I said, so I connected that. So the supreme beings, they melanated people. They are the supreme ones. And when you, and I'm going to reveal something on the upcoming show that's going to blow white supremacy out of the water completely. You have to be a fool to stay in it. But when you connect the dots and put this thing together, we, the people, the original people of this planet, in the image of the Creator, are the ones that must return to that position. But we can only do it with unity and unconditional love for one another.
I can't believe that people believe that there's this, I don't even know how many planets there are in the solar system, right? And that we are the only ones.
Well, that's the big lie. I mean, the only way this system stays in power is lying. You know, you ever heard the old church people say the devil is a lie? Well, they are liars. The whole system, the educational system, the medical system, it's all based on lies and enslavement. And only we, the mother groups can't go and confront this. The melanated people on this planet are gonna have to fix this. And it's a very simple fix. Unconditional love, unity. You gotta come together. We gotta stop fighting each other, being jealous, wondering about who got this, who got that, or how many degrees you have, or all my eye was educated, everything you were educated. I'm sorry to tell you, you got hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray. Hey, just accept it and reboot. That's all we have to do. When we have that knowledge, without organization, yes.
No, I'm just saying that I've met so many. I do have a book club in one of the prison systems, and the intelligence that's behind those gated communities is amazing. It's just amazing that we're not able to tap into their knowledge and their brilliance. But anyway, that's another show. Let's talk about political action committees and why they are important.
Okay, so if you go to any city here in the United States, all right, when a Black person decides to run for office, it's hard for them to get money in most cases. And most of the Black people that have money, they don't compromise their soul to get it, all right? And so to get grasp of Obama was a fluke, but then you go a little deeper, you're gonna find out some other things. But
I don't think it was a fluke, but anyway, go ahead.
No, it was a fluke that he was able to get grassroots money.
Oh, okay.
All right. And so the Black folks, whenever, I know here in Tampa, I can't vouch for all the other cities, but anytime they run for office, they have to pay a registration fee. They need money for printing materials and all that. So who did they go for to get the money? The other groups. You know, Black folks, we don't have a political action committee that can say, here's the platform that we're gonna back you on. We're gonna
here's the agenda. Here's the agenda. Right.
So it is imperative during this transition from the old paradigm to the new paradigm that we have a political action committee that's not only going to help identify and support candidates that are sensitive to our plight, but they're going to go and leverage to make sure to revisit and explain to these different politicians, hey, you don't move in getting our citizenship or our indigenous status or land that was taken and taxed and all of the crazy things that you folks have done here in our country, our planet, really. It's going to be as the words of bringing back, it's going to be a discrepancy.
So tell me why the book is called The Second Coming.
So I was worried. So the Guardian said it was okay. I said,
okay, yeah.
I said, okay, so, and then they revealed to me, say, well, the second coming, you know, Black folks are waiting on this character to come back and just wipe their sins away and save them, not knowing that the second coming is the awakening of the Christhood in every melanated person.
Right.
You too can perform these miracles and even greater works. We all have the power of the Christ. So I had to try to attend to the church mentality that the second coming is us coming together as one nation, one love, one unconditional love. Whether you're short, tall, dark skin, light skin, whether you're the garbage man or brain surgeon, we all created equal. And we gotta love and respect our positions, our capabilities. Because if the garbage man don't get the garbage, we're gonna be sick, you know? So we got to get out of the competitive European design. That was designed by the dark side, the whole system. We got to get out. We got to shift from that paradigm to the new paradigm.
You know, a lot of people didn't understand George Clinton's one-liner that always said it, one nation under a groove.
Hey.
You know, he really did have an enlightenment about you know, the unity, UNITY. And yeah, love George Clinton. So I have a question here. Hold on. George Clinton. Not, is that his name? No, no. What's wrong with me? I must be tired. Do you know about UCC-1? And is that a path for Indigenous people to take while here to become sovereign?
I'm not UCC-1. No, I've heard of it. I have not done the research on it. I have to claim ignorance. I know what we're doing. We have the United Aboriginal Americans. Well, I tell you, but
You must be tired.
Yeah,
we're blaming on that. That's what I'm blaming.
You know,
on.
I rehearsed that name. I rehearsed that name, and it's a republic. So it's the United Aboriginal American Republic. So what we're doing is organizing a tribe, a nation state, and our objective is to share all the technology that we have with all the tribes, all the melanated people that are contemplating that starting to figure it out, because we all receiving that frequency. We know what to do now. And so we're gonna share the technology of the young lady that you talked about that was, I'm not gonna say abducted, but enlightened and was healed. We know how to get that technology to heal all the melanated people and even Caucasian people that don't want to be a part of white supremacy anymore. You know, we can't, one thing about unconditional love, you can't discriminate. Right. So we understand what we need to do to access that power. And so all of the organizations that understand we need our indigenous nationality status here in the Americas, we are joining forces. We're not competing with each other. You know, bring your technology, we bring our technology, and our technology is supernatural. It is far greater than all of the missiles and aircraft that they think they're developing, you know, to fake us out. Is far greater, you know. And so, you know, but you know, whatever your flags, a lot of these groups are putting together their own flags. And I was online today and to let you know that we all vibrating on the same frequency. I saw some flags almost identical to the one that we were developing. It has the Ankh, it has green and black colors. And I was amazed, you know. So we getting it now. So the second coming is manifesting right now, and it's just a matter of time. So whatever those agencies, all of those groups, we need to come and have one big tribal community gathering and understand one nation under groove is now the time.
Now is the time, right? Exactly.
It's mandatory.
It's mandatory.
It's no longer optional.
For the person who wanted to know about the sovereign, what was that called? Sovereign, how to become sovereign. We don't really have the answer to that for you, but if you know somebody who does have the answer, please have them contact me and maybe we'll have a conversation about it.
Yeah, and they can come join us. You know, our site, www.enlightenonespact.org. Come join us. We're going to set up, you know, you can join our nation state. We're going to set up your nation state trust fund. For those of you that have 40 acres that still have your 40 acres on a mule, a vast amount of land, we're going to help convert that into indigenous land to be exempt from federal prosecution and taxation. All of those things. We have all the technology. We just need people to say, hey, I'm tired of being beat down, and take the leap of faith. Just step out and say, we're going to change this. My generation especially, I'll be 70 this September the 30th. So all you guys in the
congratulations.
60s, yeah. So you need to come get with us and do something for those generations behind us. They are in trouble. They don't have the critical thinking skills or business etiquette to know how to do this. We do. Join us.
Mm. And so I've put in the chat room, everybody, how to get a copy of his book. I put the website there, so please copy it and paste it. And I also copy it and paste it into the video when it goes on YouTube. So what else would you like to tell us, Andrew?
Well, I'm just hopeful, especially to the people that are on, I'm hoping that I've encouraged them. I'm hoping that I have maybe awakened them from the slumber. The fear factor, one of the things that the Catholic Church did is remove reincarnation out of their text in 553 AD. And the reason they did that is because people don't understand the consequences of their actions. So a lot of people are like on cruise control. I'm in retirement mode. I got mine. The children, they need to go get theirs. They need to, but no, we messed up. I mean, we got hungry. It's not, don't feel like a Lone Ranger. And so there's an old African proverb, you come back through your children. So these children, in the condition that they're in right now, if you die 60, 70, 80, you coming back through them. Whatever mess you left them in is what you're coming back to. So I strongly encourage you, if you're worried about, oh, they might kill me, or they might take my house, you don't own anything on this planet. It's all rental. Not even the body that you're in. It's a rental to help your soul evolve to a higher level of frequency. So join us. Get rid of the fear factor. Ye of little faith, as they say from the biblical study. Come work with us. We have, you can call Brenda's she's the president of our Urban Progress Alliance. You can reach her at 813-324-0915. You can call her to get information, how to get the book, how to join us. We're doing a community garden right here in Tampa. We understand that the foods that they're creating, they're not designed, they're only designed to fill you up. They're not designed to heal you. So we're changing that. And you have to have faith in the guardians of the Most High. They have the most advanced technology. When you come together as one, they will protect you. When you come together as one with us, we will summons them to heal you the way the woman that Donna told me about. I knew exactly what happened. I don't know if she knew how to call them, but we do. But we have to do it as a unified front. Stop fearing these people that worship this false God. Because we did a show this past Saturday, and we know who this false God is. And when you hear the story about them, they're like a small gang of doubting people. When the high frequency extraterrestrials, our ancestors, whooped their ass and relegated them to a planet where they had to lay in darkness for a while. When they regained their consciousness, they remembered the butt whooping, and they said, I don't think we can beat the guardians of the Most High. Well, what we're gonna do? Well, let's piss them off. Let's go to Earth and corrupt their favorite invention. All right. And they were still doubtful, but they came here and did a good job. But we can easily rebuke them through unity.
And so would that be your pearl of wisdom?
Absolutely. That and a lot more. I got a lot to share. I want to get it, the downloads are overwhelming. I receive it, but I want to share it with all the people from my generation, the generation before me, the 5, 6, 7 generation after me. I want to share this knowledge. I want to give it up. It is not about competing. It's not about getting rich. Being rich is an illusion. Get out of that. It's an illusion. We have one purpose now, is to unify and start repairing our planet and repairing our relationships with each other. Black Native American men and Black Native American women are at odds with each other. It's a business transaction now. We're not loving each other. We're not protecting each other. We're not promoting each other. We just, it's evil. So we can change this. but you gotta have some faith in yourself.
Does anyone have any questions for Andre before we sign off? Please open your mics if you do. No? Okay. So I personally believe that we use a minute amount of brain space, and that the brain space that we have needs to just be opened up to where we can receive all the things that are out there for us to develop. And I don't know how we get there. I mean, I really don't know how we get there, but tell
It's
me.
a simple fix.
Okay.
So you get the first group of conscious people to come together, solidify, and manifest a miracle, just a project. Even if it was just we came together and do one road, the next outer group will see us and say, how did you all do that? Well, we did it with unconditional love. We did it with respect for each other. We did it because we believe. And then that group will say, well, we want in on that. And then the group outside of them will see them, and it's the ripple effect. So that's how we do it. We got to start with just the few, even if just the few that are listening right now get involved. We have the technology, the spiritual, metaphysical technology. So just get involved and let's do this. All we have to do is demonstrate by example.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hill, for being on Zoom and on a fresh conversation. I've been enlightened, and I think that everyone here has been enlightened, and we will get copies of the second coming. I did put that in the chat box. Please copy it and paste it, everybody. This won't be our last conversation, Mr. Hill. I'm very excited about what you're doing. And I want to go deeper on the extraterrestrial aspect of it and how we receive it. I want to go deeper on that. So we'll have another conversation, not about the book, but about the whole ions. That's what it is, right?
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, that's what it is, right? And so I keep telling my friends that Adam was not really ADAM, it was really ATM. I just didn't know how to spell it, right? So we really have to understand about the metaphysical process, right?
Absolutely. We have the knowledge to share. I'm looking forward to it.
We do. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here again on a Monday night. I know that
I'll call you number.
What do you say?
I'm sorry, I'll call the number you called.
Oh, absolutely.
13.
Oh, give it to us again, Andre, the number.
So the number is 813-324-0915. And that's Brenda Allen. She's the president, but she's a queen mother. She works with all 4 platforms. All 4 platforms is the Political Action Committee, the nation state, our media that we have here, and also a banking system based on intrinsic value, not the illusion like of the stock market money. All right, we gotta change up this whole program. Yeah.
Okay, Brenda has put her the www in the chat room and her phone number, which is 813-324-0915. So thank you, Andre. We will be in touch. And to our audience, do not be afraid to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Absolutely.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for being here on Zoom.
Peace out.
Station.
All right. Good night.
Good night.